Meghan's ultimate ambition could no longer stay hidden, as she reportedly pushed to take over the patronage for children and families from Catherine. Princess Anne firmly stood beside Catherine, while Prince William made it clear there would be no compromise. As the world watched Catherine carefully step back from public duties to focus on her medical recovery and shield her young family from relentless global scrutiny, someone else saw an administrative vacancy. That same person reportedly saw a strategic entry point, an opportunity to use a moment of private vulnerability and regain a foothold within the very institution they have publicly criticized. Palace sources describe an extraordinary sequence of events that allegedly unfolded earlier this week, a series of developments that reads like a tense political thriller but carries major constitutional implications. According to those reports, Meghan Markle attempted to arrange a high-profile return to London. The strategy appeared straightforward: bypass the usual palace channels and project an image of unmistakable global influence. Reports claim Meghan's representatives submitted a direct request for her to arrive by private helicopter on royal palace grounds, supposedly to deliver an urgent sealed diplomatic matter directly to the sovereign. It was presented as a classic Hollywood-style power move, a visual statement suggesting she was returning not as a supplicant, but as an international figure of considerable standing. However, the king's household reportedly responded immediately with a firm refusal. The request to land a helicopter on palace grounds was denied. The palace reportedly shut down the dramatic arrival, citing strict security protocols and the need to uphold established royal procedures. There would be no red carpet entrance, no cinematic arrival, and no special exemptions for a non-working member of the royal family living in California. Faced with that immediate administrative obstacle, Meghan and Prince Harry reportedly shifted tactics. Instead of arriving by helicopter, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex entered the palace grounds in a discreet, heavily tinted vehicle, slipping through the side gates under the cover of strict privacy. Rather than arriving as triumphant global figures, they reached Clarence House quietly, entering through a heavily secured back entrance. But what happened after their much-anticipated meeting caught the attention of veteran royal observers. When their vehicle finally emerged from the palace gates, cameras captured a brief but revealing glimpse of their departure. Those present described Meghan's expression as one of unmistakable fury, a look of deep frustration and simmering resentment that closely mirrored the historic events of 4 years earlier. It was a striking visual echo of the infamous 2020 Megxit negotiations, the moment their demands for a half-in, half-out royal role were systematically dismantled by the firm resolve of senior royals. 4 years ago, they believed they could force the monarchy's hand through public pressure and strategic media briefings. This week, they reportedly returned with the same tactical blueprint, expecting a recovering institution to bend to their will. But this time, the landscape had fundamentally changed. The monarchy they encountered was no longer prepared to rely on quiet diplomacy or careful management of family disputes. The moment the sealed document reportedly reached King Charles's desk, the response became a coordinated three-pronged effort. For years, the public has been told the royal family preferred silence, dignified restraint, and avoiding direct conflict whenever possible. Tonight, we can report that the era of passive endurance appears to be over. This time, King Charles III, Princess Anne, and Prince William did not remain behind palace spokespeople or carefully worded statements. They responded together with clarity, determination, and unified institutional support to defend the Princess of Wales. They reportedly viewed this as more than a request for a charitable partnership. Instead, it was seen as a calculated challenge to the integrity of the Crown's commitments. Meghan's written submission reportedly did not simply ask for permission to assist with the covenant. It also contained specific criticisms directed at Catherine's current operational capacity. The document reportedly argued with legal precision that the Queen's covenant required an active, modern leader with undeniable international reach, implying that Catherine's current focus on her health and domestic responsibilities within the UK left her unable to lead the patronage into a global future. This reported attempt to use Catherine's medical recovery as part of the argument is said to have sparked strong concern within the royal household. Meghan's legal brief allegedly reframed Catherine's medically advised reduction in public duties as an administrative abandonment, arguing that the vital work of the covenant was languishing in isolation. At the heart of the submission was an assumption many considered astonishing. It suggested that global fame and American media partnerships could replace a decade of quiet, focused, and meaningful constitutional service within the British state. The Sussexes reportedly believed that by presenting their proposal as a global rescue mission for a vulnerable charity, they could create a public relations dilemma the king could not avoid. They reportedly calculated that a refusal would allow them to portray the palace as rigid, outdated, and uncaring, while an approval would deliver the ultimate prize, a permanent, high-profile royal platform operating outside palace control. What they allegedly did not anticipate was the scale of the institutional response. The three leading figures of the modern monarchy reportedly stood united, believing that if Catherine's life work was divided and handed to those who had stepped away from royal duties, the credibility of the royal promise itself would be damaged. This is the story of how that corporate-style challenge was met with an unyielding royal response, marking what many observers describe as the end of the Sussexes' ability to negotiate with the British Crown. The detailed structure of Meghan's sealed submission reportedly did not appear by chance. It was presented as a carefully prepared administrative strategy, drafted with a level of insider knowledge that immediately raised concerns inside Buckingham Palace's private offices. Reports claim the legal strategy rested on a highly specific administrative loophole, one allegedly drawn from the most restricted archives of royal governance. According to these claims, the key figure behind the brief was Sir Malcolm Avery, a retired palace advisor who spent decades helping draft the original constitutional framework of the Queen's Covenant for Children and Families. During a private gathering at St. James's Palace, Avery reportedly discussed sensitive administrative procedures connected to the covenant. He reportedly highlighted a little-known clause called the temporary stewardship provision. The rule had originally been created in the mid-20th century as an emergency measure allowing the reigning monarch to appoint a temporary external administrator to oversee essential charitable functions only if a senior working royal became completely incapacitated or physically unable to carry out constitutional duties. For an ambitious legal team based in California, this obscure administrative detail reportedly became far more than a historical footnote. It was viewed as a golden key. Meghan's legal advisors immediately focused on the term temporary stewardship, systematically stripping it of its traditional, highly restrictive boundaries. When the final draft reached King Charles III, the Sussex legal team had reportedly removed the requirement that any temporary administrator must be an active working member of the royal family, permanently residing in the United Kingdom. They reportedly reworked the clause to present Meghan as a globally recognized independent trustee who could maintain the patronage while Catherine remained away from public duties. It was described as a sophisticated attempt to use the palace's own historic rules to legitimize an external takeover of a crown asset. The document was reportedly written in a corporate style, presenting the transition as an administrative necessity rather than a personal power move. When King Charles III reviewed it, alongside his private secretaries, the reaction was said to be one of profound shock and immediate concern. The king reportedly realized that the wording and confidential legal references used in the submission could only have come from someone with historic access to the palace's private registries. This was reportedly viewed as more than a standard petition. It was seen as an organized institutional challenge. The king allegedly recognized that if such a document ever established a precedent, any temporary reduction in public duties by a senior royal could be used by outside parties to claim patronages and titles. The sovereign reportedly ordered a full internal investigation into the source of the leak, a move that allegedly led to a quiet but decisive confrontation with Sir Malcolm Avery. The message from the Crown was clear. The monarchy's private administrative files were not to be studied, exploited, or traded by those who had chosen to step away from royal duties. The response inside the royal household was reportedly swift, calculated, and unlike anything seen before. Once the scale of the administrative challenge became clear, the usual approach of silent endurance was abandoned. Meghan and Prince Harry reportedly did not expect their challenge to Catherine's public role to unite the senior members of the royal family into a solid front. This was reportedly no longer viewed as a family disagreement or an attempt to accommodate the concerns of a younger son. Instead, it was treated as a constitutional challenge to the continuity and dignity of the crown. The royal response was led by 3 senior figures, each presenting a united and determined defense that left little room for compromise. King Charles III reportedly held a private, highly restricted meeting with Meghan inside Clarence House. During the discussion, held without television cameras or outside advisors, the king reportedly spoke plainly, telling the Duchess of Sussex that she was seeking privileges that had never belonged to her and was using Catherine's private health journey to support an institutional claim. The sovereign reportedly made it clear that a medically advised reduction in public duties was not a surrender of responsibility and would never be treated as an invitation for an outside replacement. Following the king's reported confrontation, Princess Anne spoke out with her trademark razor-sharp clarity at a high-level discussion about the future of royal patronages. Princess Anne reportedly delivered a firm statement that served as a warning to anyone who believed public relations campaigns could influence royal appointments. She said with absolute conviction that if people do not change their fundamental nature, they will eventually recognize the true value of those who show lifelong devotion. Princess Anne also affirmed that the standards of the British Crown would not be altered, bent, or diluted to satisfy the ambitions of those seeking the prestige of the royal platform without accepting its responsibilities. Her remarks reportedly cut through the corporate language of Meghan's proposal, reinforcing the principle that duty comes before celebrity. However, the strongest reaction reportedly came from Prince William. Palace insiders described the Prince of Wales as displaying controlled but unmistakable anger. He reportedly refused to allow his wife's period of recovery to become a battleground for what was described as the Sussexes' commercial ambitions. Prince William reportedly made it clear to both his father and senior palace officials that he would not accept any action that could establish a dangerous precedent for the monarchy. He argued that allowing the Sussexes to secure a patronage in this way could undermine the stability of 4 successive reigns. He was referring directly to the line of succession stretching from Queen Elizabeth II through the reign of King Charles III, his own future reign, and ultimately that of his son, Prince George. William reportedly insisted that this structural vulnerability should be permanently addressed before similar pressures could affect the future of the young prince. The Prince of Wales reportedly declared that the family would no longer allow those who had stepped away from royal duties to cast a shadow over the working heart of the monarchy. To understand the scale of Meghan's reported demands, it is important to look back at the circumstances surrounding her departure from active royal service. When the Duchess of Sussex stepped away from her constitutional duties, critics argued that the decision came with calculated determination, leaving both the British public and the royal household surprised. There was, they claimed, no hesitation, no lingering sense of duty, and little concern for the national institutions that had been placed under her care. She reportedly chose to leave behind the responsibilities she had promised to uphold in order to pursue commercial entertainment deals, corporate sponsorships, and global celebrity branding opportunities across the Atlantic. According to critics, these prestigious royal patronages appeared to be treated as temporary stepping stones for global recognition before being discarded once they no longer supported her personal narrative. According to critics, the historical record surrounding this departure presents a very different picture from the Sussexes' narrative of selfless charity. Among the most notable organizations affected by Meghan's exit were 2 prestigious institutions Queen Elizabeth II had personally entrusted to her: the Royal National Theatre and the Association of Commonwealth Universities. These were not small organizations. They were major pillars of British cultural and educational life that required active, dedicated leadership. When the Duchess left for California, critics argue these organizations were left facing administrative uncertainty. They also claim there was no detailed transition plan or meaningful public explanation of how the sudden departure might affect daily operations, fundraising efforts, or their public standing. They were, critics say, simply left behind, highlighting what they viewed as a gap between public messaging about global compassion and practical commitment to public service. In response, Buckingham Palace reportedly did not panic. Instead, the royal household launched a careful, thorough administrative review. The objective was not only to fill the vacancies, but also to restore stability to the organizations affected by the Sussexes' departure. Under the guidance of senior officials and the sovereign, palace staff reportedly reviewed the operational needs, historical traditions, and long-term goals of each institution. According to reports, officials decided these patronages would no longer be viewed as platforms for personal branding. Instead, they were reassigned to active working members of the royal family with established interests in those areas. The Royal National Theatre, for example, was eventually placed under Queen Camilla's patronage, while other educational roles became part of the responsibilities of working royals who viewed patronage as a lifelong commitment to service rather than a temporary public platform. The consequences of stepping away from royal duties also extended to Prince Harry. The sovereign decided to remove his honorary military appointments and official royal patronages. Titles including Captain General of the Royal Marines, once held by generations of senior royals, were formally returned to the crown. Those long-standing military connections, built over centuries of service, were considered incompatible with someone no longer carrying out official royal duties while living in California. His sporting patronages, including the Rugby Football Union and the Rugby Football League, were also reassigned, in a move that supporters viewed as highlighting the contrast between departure and continued service. Those sporting patronages were transferred to Catherine, Princess of Wales. Catherine stepped into the demanding roles with her characteristic composure, helping stabilize the organizations and reinforcing the view that royal leadership is built on consistency, loyalty, and an enduring commitment to duty. One of the most significant developments in this entire situation was the unexpected intervention of Queen Camilla. To many observers, her strong support for Catherine may have appeared surprising, but to those familiar with the inner workings of the modern royal household, it seemed entirely consistent. Queen Camilla has first-hand experience of being the focus of relentless media attention and public scrutiny. She has spent decades navigating intense criticism, quiet endurance, and the long process of rebuilding her public reputation. When she reportedly saw Meghan attempting to capitalize on Catherine's temporary medical absence, the Queen is said to have recognized what she viewed as the harshness of that approach. Camilla reportedly believed Meghan's legal proposal created a sophisticated public relations dilemma for King Charles III. If the king accepted the proposal, critics argue it could have been seen as undermining Catherine by suggesting she was replaceable. If he rejected it, Meghan's supporters could portray the palace as cold, rigid, and unwilling to support someone presenting herself as wanting to help vulnerable children. Recognizing that risk, Queen Camilla reportedly became a key voice behind the scenes, encouraging the king to take a firm position. She argued that the royal family should never allow public pressure, media campaigns, or fears of negative American headlines to determine how royal duties were assigned. Camilla reportedly emphasized that protecting Catherine's recovery, dignity, and contributions to the nation had to remain the crown's highest priority. By standing firmly alongside Prince William and Princess Anne, she helped strengthen a united institutional response. Together, they reportedly blocked what they viewed as Meghan's strategic effort, ensuring that the Princess of Wales remained protected and sending a clear message that the House of Windsor would stand together against attempts to challenge its senior working members. The reported failure of the Sussex legal strategy led to what supporters described as a carefully planned constitutional response. After reviewing the proposal and its administrative implications, King Charles III reportedly concluded that a private rejection alone would not prevent similar disputes in the future. The monarchy, according to these accounts, needed a permanent, legally binding solution that would close any administrative loopholes identified by Meghan's advisors. Following high-level consultations with Princess Anne and the Keeper of the Privy Seal, the sovereign reportedly authorized the drafting and immediate publication of a revised Royal Charter of Patronages. Rather than issuing a simple press release or temporary directive, the palace reportedly responded with what was described as a permanent sovereign measure intended to protect the integrity of the British Crown's commitments for generations. According to these accounts, the revised charter was carefully written to address the legal arguments reportedly used by Meghan's California-based advisory team. The document focused on redefining the long-debated rules surrounding the temporary management of royal responsibilities during periods of medical leave or personal difficulty. One major clause reportedly stated that a temporary absence, a medically advised reduction in public duties, or a focus on family responsibilities by a senior working royal could never be interpreted as a vacancy or abandonment of patronages. The charter reportedly declared that Catherine, Princess of Wales, remained the permanent and active steward of the Queen's Covenant for children and families. Supporters argued that by placing this principle into constitutional guidance, the King removed the central argument critics believed Meghan's advisors had used by presenting Catherine's recovery as an administrative gap requiring outside involvement. The revised Royal Charter of Patronages also reportedly introduced another major restriction affecting the long-term ambitions of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The new rules stated that official royal patronages, charitable trusts, and national institutions would be reserved exclusively for active working members of the royal family who permanently reside within the United Kingdom and serve under the authority of the Crown. The charter also reportedly stated that anyone who had formally stepped back from official royal duties or who combined royal titles with commercial branding, global media partnerships, or corporate fundraising would be permanently ineligible to hold, manage, or temporarily assist with royal patronages. According to supporters, this provision effectively closed the door on any future effort by the Sussexes to use charities associated with Queen Elizabeth II to rebuild their public profile or establish a royal-linked presence in London. The implementation of the charter was reportedly swift and highly coordinated. Palace officials were reportedly instructed to end communications with Meghan's outside legal and public relations advisors. The private secretaries to the King and the Prince of Wales also launched a review to identify unauthorized marketing materials, fundraising drafts, and promotional campaigns that allegedly used the official emblem or seal of the Queen's Covenant. Reports further claimed Meghan's representatives had already opened discussions with international donors, believing the King would approve temporary involvement with the charity. According to these accounts, the sovereign's intervention halted those plans, leading to the cancellation of the reported campaigns and highlighting the gap critics saw between those ambitions and the Sussexes' official position within the British monarchy. The fallout from this reported legal response was immediate and, according to critics, damaging to the Sussexes' public image. Despite reported efforts to keep the outcome private, details surrounding the rejected helicopter request, the meeting at Clarence House, and the reported dismissal of the legal proposal quickly spread through British and international media. Within hours, discussion of Meghan's reported attempt to take over Catherine's charitable work was dominating television, radio, and online platforms across the United Kingdom. Public reaction largely centered on support for Catherine, with many praising her decision to remain silent throughout the controversy rather than engage publicly. Supporters argued that the Princess of Wales showed dignity by remaining focused on her recovery and on the children and families connected to her charitable work. At the same time, King Charles III's reported response was viewed by many as a signal that the monarchy would continue to prioritize duty continuity and long-term service above public relations battles. The reported resolution of the dispute left little room for further debate. Supporters believed the king had drawn a firm line, reinforcing the view that royal patronages and constitutional responsibilities would remain protected from outside influence. As Catherine gradually returned to public engagements, many observers viewed her quiet approach as a sharp contrast to the public controversy surrounding the proposal. During an appearance at a children's centre in South London, the warm reception she received was widely interpreted by supporters as a reminder that lasting royal authority is earned through steady service rather than public attention. For Prince Harry and Meghan, critics argued that the reported closure of the temporary stewardship provision ended any remaining possibility of seeking a future role within the working structure of the monarchy. Supporters of the palace also viewed the decisions taken by King Charles III, Prince William, and Princess Anne as measures designed to safeguard Queen Elizabeth II's legacy and preserve the long-term stability of the institution. As the debate faded, one message continued to stand out for many royal watchers. The monarchy sees itself as an institution built on duty, continuity, and responsibility rather than branding or public image. Whether people agree with that approach or not, this chapter has sparked another major conversation about the future of the royal family and where its boundaries should be drawn. Even after the headlines began to fade, the wider discussion continued. Royal commentators, supporters, and critics all kept debating what this episode could mean for the future relationship between the Sussexes and the working monarchy. Some viewed it as evidence that the palace is becoming more willing to establish firm boundaries, while others saw it as another chapter in an already complicated family story. Regardless of where opinions fall, the events generated widespread discussion about royal responsibility, public expectations, and the balance between personal independence and institutional tradition. For many observers, the biggest takeaway was not simply the reported disagreement itself, but how differently each side chose to respond. One approach relied on public attention and media coverage, while the other was widely viewed as emphasizing continuity, stability, and established royal procedures. That contrast became a major talking point across news programs, opinion columns, and online discussions, ensuring the story remained in the spotlight well beyond the initial reports. What do you think about the reported events and the palace's response? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more royal news, analysis, and the latest developments, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.